The winter sun hung low over the small town of Willowbrook, its golden light spilling softly over frost-tipped rooftops and whispering through bare trees. The streets were quiet, save for the distant rumble of cars and the crunch of boots on icy sidewalks. Inside a little corner bakery called Mara's Delights, the smell of freshly baked bread and cinnamon rolls drifted into the chilly air, wrapping everyone who stepped inside in warmth. Mara Thompson wiped her hands on her flour-dusted apron, glancing at the clock. It was nearly closing time. She sighed, exhausted but grateful. The day had been long and the customers fewer than usual. Winter always made business slower, and this year, with rising prices and bills stacking higher than dough in her mixer, every slow day added another weight to her shoulders. Still, she kept smiling. That smile had carried her through darker days before. As she turned off the oven, the bell above the bakery door jingled. Mara looked up to see a little boy, maybe 8 or 9, step timidly inside. His jacket was too thin for the season, and his cheeks were pink from the cold. He glanced around the bakery like it was a palace made of sugar, his eyes wide and hopeful. "Hi there," Mara said, her voice warm. "You're out late, sweetheart. Can I help you with something?" The boy hesitated, then shuffled forward. Do you sell those?" He pointed to a tray of chocolate croissants, their flaky tops glistening under the display lights. "Sure do," Mara said, walking over to the counter. "They're fresh out of the oven an hour ago. Would you like one?" The boy looked down, fidgeting with his hands. I don't have any money," he whispered. "I just wanted to see them." Mara's heart twisted. She recognized that look, hunger mixed with embarrassment. She'd seen it before, long ago, when she herself was a child trying to stretch a few coins into dinner. She smiled gently. "You know what?" she said. "I think I baked one too many today. It'd be a shame to let it go to waste." The boy looked up, his eyes widening. "Really?" "Really," she said, wrapping one in a napkin and handing it to him. "But there's one rule, you have to promise to smile while you eat it. That's the payment." He stared at her for a moment, then broke into a grin so bright it seemed to melt the chill right off the air. "Deal." Mara laughed. "Good. Now go on, before I change my mind." The boy took the pastry carefully, like it was made of gold, and ran out into the cold evening. Mara watched him go, that smile still lingering in her mind long after he'd disappeared around the corner. The next morning, as Mara opened the bakery, she found something unexpected on the doorstep, a small piece of paper folded neatly in half. On it, written in uneven letters, were the words, "Thank you for the croissant. It was the best thing I ever ate. From, Tom." Mara smiled softly, pressing the note to her chest. She tucked it under the counter beside her cash register, a small reminder that kindness had a way of finding its way back to you. Days passed, and Tom began to stop by more often, not always to ask for food, but sometimes just to talk. He told her about school, about how he liked to draw, and how he wanted to be a builder when he grew up. Mara learned that his mother worked 2 jobs and was often too tired to cook, and that his father hadn't been around in a long time. Every time he came by, Mara made sure there was something waiting, a muffin, a cookie, or a piece of warm bread. Tom always tried to refuse at first, but she'd simply remind him of their deal, "You owe me a smile." Those visits became the highlight of her days. The bakery still struggled, bills still came due, but somehow, things felt lighter. There was something about Tom's laughter and his wonder at even the simplest things that made the world seem a little less gray. One snowy afternoon, Mara noticed he hadn't come by in nearly a week. Worry prickled her chest. She tried to push the thought aside, maybe he was just busy, maybe school was keeping him occupied, but when another week passed without seeing him, she couldn't ignore it anymore. After closing, she slipped on her coat and walked to the little neighborhood a few blocks away where Tom had once said he lived. The buildings were old, their paint peeling, and laundry hung stiffly on frozen lines. She found the right door and knocked softly. A woman opened it, her face lined with exhaustion but kind. "Can I help you?" Mara smiled gently. "Hi, I'm Mara. I own the bakery down on Maple Street. I was wondering if Tom was home. I haven't seen him lately." The woman's expression shifted, surprise, then sadness. "You're the baker?" she asked softly. "He talks about you all the time." She paused, eyes glistening. "He's been sick. He caught a bad cold, and I couldn't afford to take him to the clinic right away. He's getting better now, thank God, but it's been hard." Mara felt a lump rise in her throat. "I'm so sorry. Can I bring him something warm?" The woman nodded gratefully. "He'd like that." Mara returned to the bakery and filled a small basket with soup, bread, and a few cookies. When she brought it back, Tom was sitting up on the couch under a pile of blankets. His face lit up the moment he saw her. "Mara," he croaked, voice still raspy. "You came." "Of course I did," she said, smiling. "You think you can disappear and not worry me?" He giggled weakly. "I missed your bakery." "Well, I brought a bit of it with me," she said, placing the basket beside him. "Now you eat and rest, okay? The world still needs builders, and builders need their strength." Tom nodded, his eyes bright even through his fatigue. "Thank you, Mara." She patted his hand. "Always, kiddo." Weeks passed, and Tom recovered. When he finally returned to the bakery, it was as though the sun had come back with him. Business still struggled, but something began to shift. One morning, a man in a crisp suit came in and ordered a dozen pastries. He mentioned hearing about the bakery from his son's teacher. Apparently, one of her students had written a school essay about "the kindest person I know," and it was all about Mara. Word spread. People started coming in, curious about the baker who gave food to hungry children and asked only for a smile in return. Some bought extra pastries and asked Mara to give them to anyone in need. Others slipped money into the donation jar she'd placed on the counter to help families like Tom's. The bakery, once on the verge of closing, began to thrive again, not because of flashy signs or big sales, but because of kindness. One spring afternoon, Tom ran in holding something behind his back. "Close your eyes," he said excitedly. Mara chuckled. All right. She covered her eyes. "Okay, open them." In his hands was a small drawing, crayon lines carefully sketched across paper. It showed the bakery, warm and bright, with Mara behind the counter and Tom in front holding a croissant. Above it, in big, uneven letters, he'd written, "A smile worth more than gold." Mara's eyes filled with tears. "You drew this?" Tom nodded proudly. "It's for you. Because your smile makes people happy. And it made me happy when I needed it most." She crouched down, hugging him tightly. "Oh, Tom. That's the nicest gift anyone's ever given me." He grinned. "I think you should hang it up in the bakery." And so she did. The drawing went right above the counter, where everyone could see it. Customers would often ask about it, and Mara would tell them the story, about a boy who reminded her that even the smallest kindness could ripple out like sunlight on snow. Years went by, and the seasons turned as they always did. Tom grew up. He became taller, stronger, and true to his word, he became a builder. He often stopped by the bakery, still flashing that same bright smile. When Mara's hands grew slower and her hair turned silver, he began helping her fix things, the shelves, the oven door, the leaky faucet. He never accepted payment. "You already paid me," he'd say with a grin. "Remember? A croissant for a smile." Then one winter morning, when the frost lay thick over the windows once more, Mara passed away peacefully in her sleep. The town mourned her deeply. People gathered outside the bakery, leaving flowers, notes, and candles. The little shop that had once been quiet now overflowed with the love of those she'd touched. Tom took over the bakery, keeping everything just as it was. He renamed it Mara's Smile and kept her picture by the register, her gentle grin forever watching over the place. Above the counter still hung the old, crayon-drawn picture, faded now, but treasured beyond words. Years later, when customers came in and saw it, they'd often ask about its story. Tom would smile softly and tell them, it started with a croissant. And a smile worth more than gold. And every time he said those words, he could almost hear Mara's laughter again, the kind that could warm even the coldest days. In Willowbrook, people still spoke of her kindness long after she was gone. Parents told their children about the baker who fed hungry kids and taught them that generosity wasn't measured in money but in love. The bakery became more than a place to buy bread, it became a symbol of what could happen when one heart chose to give without expecting anything in return. Because kindness, once shared, never truly disappears. It lingers, in drawings, in stories, in the sweetness of cinnamon on a cold day, and in the simple, priceless power of a smile.